am so sorry I did not post a video for the podcast. Well, because last week, well, technically it was a couple days ago, but if you're watching this, it's been a le- week. It's the week after. Anyways, so we went to the Hotmail Expo and also we went to the Summer Scare, a spooky event here in Fresno, California, and I was so focused on making clips and that I forgot to make an episode. Now, when I am doing these episodes for the Witch Tales podcast, we randomly just find topics that we can talk about and we do them. We don't have anything planned because, we are very spontaneous. Well, hi, my name is Megan. I'm from Fresno. I talk about haunted places, true crimes, urban legends, histories and scary stories, and paranormal videos of Fresno. So if you're from Fresno or even from the Central Valley, why not subscribe to my podcast? We talk about a lot of haunted places here because we've experienced them. Now, when I say we, I'm not just speaking about me. I'm speaking about everybody that's in Fresno. Well, some people. Now, on tonight's episode, we will be talking about some scary stories that people have told me about. So I went to Club Splash and a lot of people recognized me and they came up and told me their scary story. And one of them that I remember was the Hat Man. He's like this shadow figure who's always wearing a hat. And I've seen him too, but I just thought it was like a shadow figure. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about the Hat Man and also some other scary stories, which includes Kearney Mansion. Someone said that they heard someone scream. Again, I'm just giving you guys the little rundown before we get into the story. So, before we get into the podcast, views discretion and audio discretion is advised. Everything we talk about is just pure speculation and also strong adult language. But with that being said, let's get straight into the podcast for Witch Talk Tales episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Before we get into the scary stories, I wanted to talk about my experience at the Hotmare Expo 2026 and also Summer Scare at the Nightmare on Hedges. Well, let's talk about the Summer Scare first. At the Nightmare on Nightmare on Hedges. What happened? Oh, so there was an event on July 11th and July 12th, a week prior of Hotmare Expo. And when we went there, we walked in and there was so many vendors. There was the crochet here, and then there was the like La Gata vendor, and then other vendors, and then there was like DJ Serotonin, and they were playing good music. There was two haunted mazes. One was called Lorraine's Labyrinth, and the other one was the Walker Maze. We talked about and been to the Walker Maze, and I'm excited to go this year for uh, Halloween. Now, it is a very small event, but as someone who love haunted places and scary stories, of course, when I hear anything that's spooky that has to do with, October, mind you, this was a halfway to Halloween event. We're gonna go. And so, a lot of people did leave comments saying that they went there and they didn't see nobody. And again, you guys, this is a new event. They're not a big, I don't want to sound like disrespectful. And I hope you guys know I don't mean it like this. But this was a very new event that people barely know about. Of course, it's not going to be huge, but there were people who left comments. They were saying that, oh, I showed up. No, I drove by and there was nobody there. So I didn't want to stay. But I was like, just because there wasn't a lot of people, you didn't want to be there? That's kind of wild. And I'm not saying bad things to them, but I'm just like, if you are part of Fresno, why wouldn't you want to share the community? I mean, help the community, you know? I don't know. I have the AC on running. Can you guys hear it? I'm so sorry if it's too loud. I hope that it's not gonna bug you guys. Just pretend that it's ASMR sound in the background. Well, back to the summer scare. Drop down a comment. Let me know. Did you guys end up going to the summer scare? Do you have pictures? Did we take pictures? Did you guys have fun there? Let me know. I would really want to know what your thoughts on about it. And even if you didn't enjoy it, I would really want to hear what you have to say. Because again, this podcast I might be doing these episodes, but really, I'm doing these for you guys. So if you're from Fresno, drop down a comment, let me know. Well, now let's talk about the Hammer Expo that we went to. Again, this was a couple days ago, but if you're seeing this episode or listening to this episode, it's the week after. And this was on July 18th and 19th. We went on a Saturday. The ticket was about $36.99, obviously, tax included. And then we went for Saturday. So I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did enjoy it. I've seen, we've seen a lot of horror movies, celebrities. I think it was smaller this year. Last year was so much fun and it was huge. I remember it was huge. This year, I think it was smaller. I'm not talking bad about the Hammer Expo. This year was a smaller event, but there was a lot of people. So maybe it wasn't small, but where they place things probably wasn't a great idea. So last year there was four mazes, no, three mazes, three mazes plus a little maze with the spectral raven spectral. I'm gonna put the name right here, and it was a lot. It was a whole bunch of people waiting in line. There was like hella. There was four mazes, so it was more huge. But this year there was the Walker maze, and then another maze, and then there was only two mazes. A lot of the vendors who recognized me were telling me they don't know why they're on this side of the building. There were so many spaces that they could have filled up somewhere else, but instead they were in that spot. Now, I'm not here to downplay the Hotmare Expo. This is just my experience. I'm not saying that it was bad. I still had fun, but it just seemed as if the event was smaller. There was not a lot of, oh my God. Can you see my dry lips? Oh my God, I don't have dry lips. But yeah, I had fun. So drop down a comment if you guys end up going to the Hammer Expo. Let me know your experience there. Am I the only one that thought the event was more smaller this year? Last year was my first year going to the Hammer Expo. So maybe I had so much fun because it was my first experience. And maybe this year, no, but then you would think if it was a second year you were going to, it would have been more amazing, right? Well, drop down a comment. Let me know if you guys end up going to the Hot Mare Expo. So let me know what your experience on that. I would love to hear what you guys thought about it. Well, back to the Hot Mare Expo. There was a little moment where Miguel's little brother met his favorite actor from Friday Nights of Freddy. I'm gonna put a picture here somewhere. And that moment was so special because that was his favorite actor. And when he hugged him, you can see like it was just so cute. He was so excited. He hugged him and he was just so shy. Dude, he was so nervous the whole time to even meet him. And we took him because he wanted to meet him. But it was just so cute. It was just so cute. Moving on, we're going to be talking about some scary stories that was told to me by people that I met at clubs such as Splash and also a bar. And one of them told me that he was sleeping and he had a sleep paralysis. And when he had the sleep paralysis, he couldn't move, he couldn't talk. So you guys don't, if you know what sleep paralysis is, I'm pretty sure you all had one at a certain age. I've had mine when I was like 7, and I remember I was laying down and I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak. But I remember I saw my brother and my mom talking. And my brother was like, wake her up, wake her up. My mom was like, no, do not wake her up. She can have a heart attack. So I fell back asleep. I don't know, somehow I closed my eyes and I went back to sleep. I woke up, I told my mom and my brother about what happened, and they said, "No, you were sleeping the whole time. Your eyes was closed." But I remember I could see them talking. So how was my eyes closed? Well, my mom didn't want to wake me up because she could hear me talking. And mind you, sleep paralysis, you're not supposed to be able to move or anything. But from what I heard, so back to the Hat Man, I was looking around and I can see this dark shadow figure at the corner of the room. And he wasn't wearing a hat, but the shape of how he looked, it looked like he was wearing a hat, like a silhouette. So the body was like this, and then the head, and then there was like a thing like that, like another shape of something, and it looked like a hat. But again, I didn't think it was a hat because it was just he was dark. Back to the scary story. This guy told me that when he was sleeping, he can see a dark shadow figure. He couldn't make it out, but he knew it was something creepy and it was just standing there watching him. He told me that he lived on Tulare 6. There's houses there, but there's also duplexes, right? He was living in the house and he said that, a little side note, he said that in the house there's so many things that would happen. He even claimed to see a clown. And him and his brother, he was sleeping on the top bunk bed, and the brother was sleeping on the bottom bunk bed. They both saw a spirit or an apparition of a clown peeking in and out of the room and would disappear. So I want to know what the house is, right? Or like we know it's on Tulare and 6, a duplex, but which duplex house? Now back to the scary story. He said to this day, he still don't understand what the tall hat man or who it was. Now, I did a little research and we're going to read it because I want to know also who is this hat man. So, who is the hat man? He is one of the most commonly reported shadow people, a global phenomenon where people experience a frightening, silent entity standing in the corner of the room, in their doorway, or at the foot of their bed. Accounts of him date back centuries. Now, for the paranormal view, some people believe he is an evil spiritual entity, a ghost, or a supernatural watcher that feeds on fear. Oh my God. Or targets vulnerable individuals. Scientific view, medical professions, and sleep researchers attribute sightings of the Hat Man to sleep paralysis. Related to the topic, my aunt, who is my mom's sister, always told me and my cousins that you never leave an empty chair without stuff in it because someone can sit there and watch you. Now, I don't know if I just thought it was like, to scare us. And so now I'm starting to think about it because if you really think about it too, have you ever noticed you have like a close rack behind a door and late at night, when you're looking at it, it looks like a shadow figure. But in reality, it's just a pile of clothes that happen to make a shape of something. But in reality, it was just your clothes, right? In reality, it was just your clothes. But in the dark, it looks like it's a shape of something looking at you. Back to the topic of the Hat Man. Every time something scary happens, everybody always end up thinking it's something demonic or an evil entity. And if it is an evil, dark entity, why would it want to be around us? Now, when I was reading the little clips for the research, it said that they feed on fear. But why would we be fearing it first if we didn't see it? So do we naturally just get scared and that's when the Hat Man knows to show up? Look, I love hearing scary stories, okay? I do. But sometimes it freaks me out because you never know if that entity is listening to you or it's feeding off of your fears, so it's showing up too. I get scared too. I love hearing scary stories, but I get scared too. And I hope you guys are enjoying the scary stories, but just know sometimes when I'm sleeping, I have nightmares. I will wake up and think that whatever the stories told me, like whoever told me the story, I will have a dream about it. And then when I wake up, I would think it's real, but I will wake up into reality. I'm like, oh, it was just a dream, but I get scared too. Now, we know that the Hat Man shows up for fear, right? But if we are sleeping, and we're not scared, why would he show up to feed on our fear if we weren't scared? Now, maybe he showed up because he wants to create fear to scare us. I don't know. I don't know. Think about it. To me, it makes sense. But drop down a comment, let me know. Have you guys ever had an experience with the Hat Man or the Shadow Man? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. You know, just knowing that this entity, who's known as the Dark Shadow Hat Man, really makes you think, if he exists, then there has to be other entities that exist. And I don't want to find out. I do not want to find out. If you see him, just ignore him and go back to sleep. Don't sit there and look at him like, is what if he's looking back at you and you made eye contact with him? Well, oh, and also he's faceless. The Hat Man's faceless. So I don't think he can see you, but we can see him. So if he's faceless and we can't see his face, then how will we know if, oh my God, I just got the chills. What if what if the Hat Man is facing the wall and we're only seeing the back of him? Bro, think about it. Think about it. What if the Hat Man, somebody who got grounded on a timeout, and somehow that triggered him, and then when he passed away, that's how he appears? Because, like last week we talked about a stone tape theory. When something tragically happened, whether due to emotional or trauma or, you know, crimes, they become an event that replaces itself over and over and over. This is not true. This is just my theory. What if the Hat Man, something tragically happened to him, and that's why he shows up at the corner of the room? And since we can't see his face, what if we're only seeing the back of him? Because he been traumatized by just standing at the corner facing the wall. Well, let me know what you think about that. Drop down a comment and let me know. I mean, that theory sounds kind of cool, but I don't want to ask the Shadow Hat Man if it is true, because I don't want to see him. And you guys, it is about 3 o'clock in the morning, a.m. I just left the bar. Let me do a video because I have time right now before I go to sleep. So hopefully I do not see the Shadow Hat Man or the Hat Man. Ooh, I'm scared. Well, let me know what you guys thought on that. And moving on to our next story. I went to a bar known as the Red Lantern, and there was this person. They told me for it to remain anonymous, and they told me that they saw my video of Kearney Mansion. Years ago, they went to Kearney Park to, barbecue and be with the family and friends. Well, it got dark and the family left, but the friends stayed. So it was her and a group of her friends, and they were chilling at the park. It was already getting dark, right? And so they wanted to walk around to go see like behind the mansion just to see the area. Now, I don't know if they ever went behind the mansion but they remember they heard a scream coming behind Kearney Mansion. And so they all ran, leaving the park. When they were running and leaving the park to going towards the gate, because mind you, it's a far run, they still heard the scream coming towards them. And to this day, she said that they all can agree on it, that they'd heard a scream coming to them. And as they were leaving the park, it was still running behind them. Well, not running, but the scream was still coming as if the person or whoever it was following them and screaming behind them. We've heard about Kearney Mansion being haunted. We've heard about the urban legends, right? I remember someone left a comment saying that they heard screams as well. Now, why would there be screams at Kearney Mansion? Like, who's doing the screams? People sometimes don't believe in haunted places. Maybe some people can say it's a bird, but late at night, though, maybe an owl or a crow. Again, I don't know. But they experienced that paranormal at Kearney Mansion. And then they saw my video, and they now know that they're not crazy, that there are others who've experienced this at Kearney Mansion. So My question to y'all is, when you went to Kearney Mansion, and even if you haven't, but for those who did go to Kearney Mansion, did you also hear screams? What did you experience there at Kearney Mansion? Well, Kearney Park. I'm so sorry. What did you experience at Kearney Park? Did you hear any screams? Some people also say they can see shadow figures lurking behind Kearney Mansion, looking at you like this. I can honestly say, no matter what generation it is, Kearney Mansion and Kearney Park will always remain a mystery. Check my podcast that we also talked about Kearney Park and Kearney Mansion. We went to do a tour there and we also sat down at the park telling scary stories. So maybe you've heard about those urban legends as well. So don't forget to check that out. And everything we talk about will be linked in the description box below. So don't forget to check that out also. Now, moving on to our next scary story, a user has sent me hers. And I relate to it because it also happened to me. Did you ever was sleeping and it was dark in the room and you felt like as if somebody sat down, and when you wake up to look, nobody was there, but it was dark. So you were trying to like feel to see if you could feel anybody, but there was nobody there. Well, that happened to me. And this girl sent me her story. She said that she was babysitting her nieces and she was sleeping on the couch. And when she was sleeping on the couch, she can hear or feel like somebody was sitting next to her trying to wake her up. And when she woke up, nobody was there. Now, she said this not happened only once, not twice, but 3 times. And it's then and soon it never happened again. Now, I relate to it. When I was sleeping alone, my husband went to work. As I was sleeping, I remember I laid down and I felt as if someone sat down on the bed because the bed sinked down like it went, right? I woke up and I said, "Babe," and I remember I looked, but there was nobody there. Mind you, the room was dark. The room was so dark, I couldn't see nothing. So my first instinct was to go like this, trying to feel on the bed, touching the bed, trying to see if anybody was there, but there was nobody there. And so in my mind, I said, "Hey Siri, turn on flashlight." It said that, and then the flashlight came on, and when I looked around, there was nobody there. So who sat down on my bed? And for the girl who sent me the story, who sat down on her bed, on the couch, if nobody was there? Spirits physically can't hurt you, from what I know. Spirits can't really hurt you, but they're able to scare you to death. So if a spirit is not physical, then how are they able to press down the bed or sit down on the bed? Now, was it just my body waking up and somehow I moved the bed, and then I'm getting more scared now because I'm thinking about that moment. And I remember I just screamed. I said, "Babe," and no one answered. Well, I wasn't expecting a ghost, but I thought my husband came home, but there was nobody there. And I still don't know. Maybe it was just a dream. Maybe was laying there and then I moved my leg and that's when the bed came down. Again, when it comes to paranormal activities or when it comes to paranormal encounters, things like that cannot be explained. Whether you've been haunted, whether you've been chased by spirits, whether you've been just anything that has to do with paranormal activities, that's always going to be a paranormal phenomenon. You can't see them. You can hear things. You can experience all these paranormal things. What I'm saying is, when you go through these paranormal encounters, you can never explain the things you went through. The only one, the only ones that's able to relate to you is those who also went through these paranormal experiences. So she says she was sleeping on the couch and someone tried to wake her up and she felt like someone sat on the couch. If it wasn't her, then who was it? Drop down a comment, let me know. And I think that is it. We talked about the spooky events here in Fresno. We talked about the Hat Man, the ghost on the couch or the bed. I felt like there was in Kearney. I felt like there was something else I was going to talk about. Like I came up with this topic on a whim because I had the energy. You know, when you get tired sometimes, not recording. Sometimes you don't have the energy or the will to do anything, and you just get stuck. Like, have you ever laid in bed and you just lay there and you look into the ceiling and you don't think about nothing? You're just staring into space. Well, that's how I've been for the past week because I had to go to the doctors. Nothing crazy, work related, and I was off for a week. I also had to do the events, and sometimes it takes a toll on you. And especially when hearing scary stories like the Hat Man, Kearney Mansion, and also, sleeping in bed and something laying down, just it takes a toll on you. And sometimes I feel drained. Now, I love being on the podcast. I love telling you guys these scary stories, but just know that I also have not fatigue. It drains me where sometimes I can't really do nothing because I'm so focused on the stories. I'm so focused on coming with new ideas and going to haunted places and also um, these spooky events that I do get drained sometimes. So just know I try my best to be on the podcast for you guys. Just know that this is for you guys. I wouldn't be here without you guys. And that's honestly the truth. Well, thank you guys for listening and thank you guys for watching. Or I'll see you guys on Monday for audio and Sunday for visual here on YouTube. Blessed be. Please stay safe. Be careful with these scary stories. And also, always remember when you go to these haunted places, please treat them with respect because you too might be haunting the location. Good night, everybody. Or good day, good time, wherever you are. Bye.